No, it's not quite ready. I just realized. I was
going to say, we are not on YouTube.
This is another example of VPN fun. Okay. So I have to get a verification code.
Now, why do we need a VPN if we're not doing anything illegal?
You don't need a VPN. I'm putting a VPN just for general security because I've gotten to the point where I'm just sick of all the junk that's out there and like, oh, I don't really want to have to deal with all that junk.
Because I have a VPN for my Fire Stick, but that's because...
Well, that's one example of it, except this VPN is going to cover... and by the way, I got myself a Fire Stick, so I'm not generation. How about that?
Oh, look at you.
Welcome to the 21st century.
21st century.
I will send you the link so you can fire up your Fire Stick.
I've already fired it up. I just haven't learned how everything works yet, but got things to do. But anyway, I got that protected by VPN, all the computers, all the phones, everything's going to be connected and protected by a VPN because I'm just tired of all this stuff. So
Facts.
Okay, now we're connecting. Here we go. All right, I think we're connected now. Nope, it's still asking me for information. Okay. Okay, here we go. Now
there it is.
All right, let's get started. Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alyx King and Bill G. Today is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York. That's 5 a.m. Los Angeles time, 1 p.m. in London, 9 p.m. in Tokyo, 10 p.m. in Sydney, and God knows what time it is here in the VPN world. But wherever you are, thank you very much for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And yesterday we had a lot of fun with my new VPN, which knocked us completely offline after 10 minutes. We're very confident. I'm very confident. We're good. We've got that one licked. It's going to be good today.
Yeah, we're fine.
Once you get everything hooked together, it does operate, and that's the main thing. So I'm looking forward to a good show, and I'm going to stay in that positive vein. And if it doesn't work out that way, then it just means that I'm going to stay positive.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
So Alyx has her ears on, and they are not flashing. They're just brilliantly lit, which is her normal default mode. That's when you know that she's like taxiing for takeoff.
It's when I'm on the tarmac.
You're on the tarmac. That's right. Yes. So we haven't talked in a few days. Now I'm talking to you via VPN. So I can't say it's a whole lot different. But how's it going?
It's going good. I've been pretty relaxed after I had a couple of procedures done since I last talked to you guys, and nothing cosmetic, unfortunately. I had to get a biopsy of my stomach because I'm still having that vomiting issue.
Ugh.
And so we get the results of that at the end of this week. And then something else is wrong with my back. They basically have to stick a hot poker in my back to kill the nerve. I was like, okay, this sounds fun.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yeah.
This reinforces for me the importance of focusing on what it is that we like, because we got to get you healed here. I mean, this is just not acceptable, girl. It just isn't.
Well, I've come to the conclusion that after we kill this nerve, that's it. I'm done.
All I can say is that nerve has a lot of nerve.
Yeah, it sure does.
It does.
It's my last nerve. It's on my last nerve.
Okay. Well, here's to the nerve. And Bill's very quietly sitting there, leaning his chin on his hand there, just waiting to be brought in. So
that's okay.
So he can take over the conversation because he loves to do that.
Oh, well, you get me on a tangent. I just, I got to make my point.
Even the points are tangents for you. I mean, they're all tangents. Everything's a tangent.
It's funny. I'm actually a rather shy person.
Could have fooled me.
Believe it or not, I actually am a shy person when I'm around people, especially large groups of people. I'm very shy. But you get me in front of a group of people or put a microphone in my hand, oh gosh, it's over. It's the
podcast animal comes out.
I don't even want to talk about microphones this week. Let's continue. You were saying, Bill?
We have a microphone hotspot here. Okay.
Okay. Well,
stay off that button.
Yeah. Well, things have been going okay. Business is good. A few weeks ago, my wife, actually in the beginning of July, she opened up a pain clinic. She expanded her practice to do a pain clinic, and that's been doing quite well. And in fact, in addition to just doing acupuncture pain, we're getting into the realm of CBD. So we're doing a CBD oil.
Send me some.
We found a really, really good product.
Do you have gummies?
Huh?
Do you have gummies?
Oh, not gummies, but they got candy, they got chocolate, but it's a high dosage, and it's good for pain and anxiety. And it's
All that.
And it's funny. These were the people who happened to be sitting next to me at the Mind, Body, Soul Expo. Nina was having a bad day at home, and she said, go talk to him. And so I went to go talk to him because, the thing about CBD, there's a lot of bad product out there.
Right.
Because it's fairly unregulated at this point. That's going to change soon. But right now, if you get your CBD from like a gas station, whatever, you're getting like water and THC. So, it's not very good product out there. So and finding out who's got the good product is a matter of just taking whatever they've got and seeing how it makes you feel. If it makes you feel better, then you've got a good product. If it makes you not feel better, then you've got a bad product. And the thing is, for people who don't know what they're looking for, they'll just assume that it doesn't work and then say that, CBD doesn't work.
Yeah.
But if you get if you find a good product, it's very, very good at reducing anxiety, reducing inflammation, and so we're going to get into that world and see how it works.
Cool beans.
The one thought that kept going through my mind, though, when you first described what you just described, was a pain clinic. Like, is this a clinic run by Dr. Frankenstein?
No.
That's what it sounds like when you describe. I really think it's a phrase that needs to change in some way.
I know, but what's funny about that is because we have called it other things. We've called it like acupuncture clinic. We've called it wellness and whatever. And the thing is, the clients don't come.
Right.
The clients come.
You got to stick with the society's word association for the moment.
And also, we took a seminar. We had a mentorship earlier this year, and the way to fill your holistic practice is name the pain, speak to the pain.
But to me, I think I would want to at least modify it by saying like pain elimination or pain reduction or something along that line.
Well, it's a pain
relief.
It's a pain clinic. Clinic is
pain
where
relief.
You relief. Pain clinic. Acupuncture pain clinic.
Maybe it's just my mind. Pain clinic could mean a pain-inducing clinic. So
well,
either way.
I don't know where you're going, but
if you're thinking to yourself that needle's going to hurt. And they don't, if you had acupuncture before, the needles do not, it's not like getting blood drawn. It's not like, the needles are like, they're the size of a fiber optic cable. They're tiny.
I know. Well, believe me, I understand that, but I'm looking at it from the marketing perspective and I'm asking myself, what's going to, I understand wanting to use the word pain. I get that. Okay. But what's going to induce the pain inflicted victim to want to come to you?
Well, it's very interesting, but we thought for sure that calling it a pain clinic would have people turn away, but in fact, it's bringing them in. It's having that opposite effect. So it is attracting more of the type of client that Nina's looking for. And when the type of client Nina's looking for are ones that she can help right away and using this new Dr. Tan method, and it's working. It's doing a great job. So the people who are coming in, she had this guy, his truck, just a quick story. This guy was a truck driver, and he had so much pain in his wrists due to inflammation that he couldn't even move it up like 20 degrees without excruciating pain. And his doctor, and he was taking opiates for it, and his doctor now refuses to prescribe the opiates anymore because they didn't want him to get hooked. And so he started self-medicating with alcohol.
Oh boy.
Which is, that's where people go. They can't self-medicate from opiates. They go to alcohol. And the guy's a truck driver.
I was going to say, how's that working out?
Yeah, it's not going to work out very well. And she, in one treatment, he could barely move his hand. And at the end of the treatment, he had full range of motion and no pain at all.
Wow.
And he was saying to her, "What the F did you do to my wrist?" And so that was that was at the end of one treatment.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
So, the method that she's using right now works extremely well. And, and again, this guy would also be a good candidate for CBD because of the fact that you take that over time, it'll help also reduce that inflammation, keep that inflammation down. And so that way he can do his job without, resorting to drugs or to alcohol. So, a success story right away. And those kinds of success stories just, they spread like wildfire. This guy's going to tell all his buddies down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that. I got to ask a question, though, here. I'm wondering now, because I hear what you're saying. I totally get it, that people are responding just to the word pain. Mm-hmm. I wonder if this is kind of like symptomatic of the overall human tendency to focus on what we don't want.
That would be, yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, if you ask them to focus on what they want, they don't come. But if you ask them to focus on what they don't want, they come.
Right.
But when you get there, you can ask them to focus on what they want.
Oh, yeah.
Once you just got to get them in the door.
Also,
yeah, that's true.
Also, when you're talking about in a clinical setting, if the title of it is focusing on what you want, like wellness, wellness is kind of a nebulous word. It can mean a lot of things.
Well, it's also been kind of overused and abused by the traditional healthcare industry, which now has successfully equated wellness in the human subconscious mind with being sick in a hospital.
Exactly. Yes,
now, see, when I hear wellness, I hear yoga, meditation, all the Eastern medicines. And what I hear.
A whole menu of stuff.
Right. As opposed to when I hear pain clinic, I'm like, okay, I have pain. I got to go to the pain clinic. This is how it helps.
Right.
I just know that almost every hospital in the area describes itself as a wellness center.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So that's why I see that. Well, you're on the Cape. I mean, you're not even part of the country. You're like off on this island.
I know, right? We're totally separate. But we have wellness centers, and we have pain clinics, and we have hospitals. So
okay.
Yeah, we got all three too. We got wellness. Yeah. The wellness centers are usually your the minute clinics are taking up that name too. The emergent care things. They're calling themselves wellness centers. And we looked into a few of them when we first moved into the area as, possibilities of, getting, for Nina to get like part-time gigs or whatever. And they were like, oh no, we don't do Eastern medicine. We just do, Western medical model. We have we have an MD, we got an orthopedic surgeon and whatever. It's like, then why don't you just call yourselves a clinic? Why do you have to call it a wellness center? Or they'll have one massage therapist that they call in on occasion and call themselves a wellness center.
Interesting. MDs leveraging a massage therapist. This is interesting. Okay. I mean, you would thought it would go the other way around, but apparently not.
When I think wellness center, I'm thinking of a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, an herbal, someone a naturopathic doctor, a full one-stop shop. You're gonna feel better when you walk out of here.
Okay, yeah.
And we're not gonna give you drugs.
CBD doesn't count as a drug.
No, it's natural.
No, it's considered an herb, which is one of the reasons why Big Pharma can't get their hands on it at the moment.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure there's a whole discussion we could have about that, but that's actually not the topic for today.
No, that is not the topic for today.
Instead, Alyx came up with a very good topic. I'm not sure where this one came from. I mean, does this have like an origin somewhere, or did it just come to you, or what?
Someone had asked me that the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, I like that.
No, okay. That's good. Well, then it's your topic. I'll let you introduce it.
Okay, so the topic of the day is, if you could speak to your past self, what would you tell them?
It has all kinds of possibilities, too. I
Mm.
mean, we were talking about it before the podcast began, and I mean, if you go negative on it and tell your past self some really lousy stuff, what does that do to your present self?
Right.
On the other hand, if you go tell your past self something really nice, what does it do for your present self?
Mm.
And it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same when you're, sometimes, like, I sit down with my 11-year-old and I talk to him about, giving him advice to the world, and sometimes he just tells me to shut the hell up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure our parents did the same thing, but.
Well, that's another question. What if you go to talk to your past self and your past self doesn't want to listen?
Well, you would know at what age you need to go talk to yourself where you're going to actually listen.
But
I don't know.
I don't. You're actually, Walt's got a good point there, because I don't know, because when each decade of your life, and they've shown this through psychology, in terms of where you are in your life. When you're in your teens, you're in that, conquer the world exploratory phase, and then when you're in your 20s, you're still in that indestructible phase, but you're kind of trying to settle in. You're trying to play adults. You're trying to do the adult thing.
You think you know everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you're in your 30s, you realize how stupid you actually are,
Facts.
and then you're trying to figure yourself out, and then when you're in your 40s, then you're really starting to hit your stride.
And then you're over the hill.
Yeah, and then when you're in your 50s, then you find you have to you're reinventing yourself in your 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then when you hit your 60s, it's like, okay, all right, now it's time to smooth the road out, see where we're going here, and then again when you hit your mid 60s and 70s, then you're reinventing yourself again. Then you're trying to do something completely different, or at least you should be. And that's kind of a healthy progression.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of us follow a healthy progression, of course.
Does anybody follow a straight line? I don't think anybody does.
No.
You shouldn't follow a straight line. No, it's way more exciting to dash across the street back and forth.
That's right. Yeah, that's what contrast is all about. Dipping your toe in, and sometimes, dipping your toe in up to the neck.
Yeah.
Yep. In dark, infested waters.
I described something very linear here, and we already know that time is not linear.
Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's also another piece of it, though. I mean, I think what you described, Bill, was a good timeline. Kind of covered a lot of possibilities, but it was good. But the thing that occurs to me is it's kind of like talking to somebody right now. Forget about timeline. Forget about past, present, future self. Just you're talking to somebody else right now. Okay? And you're talking to them about something that is presumably going to help them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they already have bought into the idea of that conversation, you're not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, with the same thought in mind, that same rule is going to apply to us in our past.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we're approaching ourselves at a time in our past when we're receptive.
That was my point.
Yeah, you got to be receptive to it. And honestly, how often can you look back to your own past and say to yourself, well, I was receptive for most of, that 10-year period. Like, no, most of us are not receptive. That's the whole point. We wouldn't be having all the difficulties we have if we were receptive.
Right.
So to me, the question is, how do you know which part of yourself to go back to? Where do you go back in the timeline? How do you decide, okay, this particular point in the timeline, I know I can be receptive there.
I will tell you right now, 16 is when I would go back.
16. Okay.
16.
Now, why is that?
I was struggling in school because I didn't know I was autistic, so I wasn't getting the help that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like throughout my life I have been receptive to a lot of things, and I feel like if myself came back and was like, hey, ears up, I'd be like, okay, all right, hold on, let me listen to what this chick's got to say, because she's got a little edge on things, so let's see what's happening. But yeah, I would tell myself a lot of things. Don't be afraid to be you. Don't try to fit into anyone's box.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be in a rush to grow up because adulting sucks. Listen to Rocco's Modern Life. He knows what it's all about. Acquire stock in Amazon and Google.
Yeah, that's right. Don't buy Yahoo, right?
No, not Yahoo. Or MySpace or...
Yahoo, that was the hot stock of the 1990s. Yeah. Ooh, that worked out real well.
And I think the last thing I would say would be like, do anything your amazing little mind will allow you to do, because you will always have support.
Well, I especially like those last bit. Mm-hmm. And even as you were describing that, you were helping me kind of decide what I would say to my past self. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things that I realized that I would say is, or more precisely what I would not say is, don't do this, don't do that. What I would say is, I suggest this, I suggest that. In other words, focusing on what it is that I want. Mm-hmm. And what it is that I presume my 15-year-old self or whatever wants as well. You know, from what I can remember. I mean, we like to think back and say, oh yeah, I knew exactly where I was at. I was a wallflower. I wasn't very confident. So forth. Yeah, I know myself, but did I really? And if I look back, do I really understand what that self was all about? Mm-hmm. Kind of. Yeah. But I'm not there anymore. I'm a much more confident person than I was back then. I remember being, lack of confidence and that kind of thing. Does that mean that I actually know being that person? Mm-hmm. I did then, and these are the questions that are in my mind as I think about this. It's a great idea being able to go back and talk to yourself, but I think there's also a bit of a minefield there, and it's not. I don't think it's quite that straightforward to negotiate it. I think there's more to it.
Because it's like Bill was saying earlier, it's like you don't want to take yourself off the track that you are on to create the person that you are today. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said I would use like little tidbits of healthy advice as opposed to saying, hey, don't go to that club next Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to, you want to steer yourself off of the track, because the mistakes you made and the consequences you learned from them created the person that you are today, which is why you have such great advice to give to your past self. And the things we know about timelines and stuff like that, you don't want to rock the future by giving too much information away anyway.
Yeah, I never worry about that.
Well, we have to work under the assumption here that who you are right now is not going to be affected by whatever you say to yourself back then. You're kind of giving the advice to someone completely different.
Well, no, I think there is going to be a consequence. I think one does lead to the other. I just don't think the timeline is going to break because of it. But,
right.
What I do wonder, though, is maybe we shouldn't be starting the conversation off with advice. Maybe we should be starting the conversation off with, what would you like to know?
Oh,
well, no, because then you get the whole butterfly effect situation going.
What do you mean?
Because if your past self is asking, what would you like to know? Like,
No. Us going back and asking the past self, what would you like to know?
Right, but the information you give them could have butterfly effects to the future, and then you might turn out to be a whole different person than who you are today.
Well, if I went back in time to my teenage self, and that was in the mid 1980s.
Well,
the first thing that teenage self would be happy to see is that I was still alive, and the world.
We were all reckless as teens. I mean, I don't know, but we'd all be surprised that we're alive.
That because we're still talking height of the Cold War, and
oh my God, I didn't think of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you didn't live through it, I can see why you wouldn't think about it. But those of us who did live through it, it was on the back of your mind every single day.
Absolutely,
it never went away.
Yeah, I was too young to know what was happening.
And good for you. I'm glad.
Yay.
When I graduated high school was the year the Berlin Wall came down. That
was a shock.
Right. It happened a lot faster than people thought it was going to.
It really did. Yeah. I mean, you knew it had to eventually collapse, but the way it came down was really quick.
Yes.
Really?
Because 2 years earlier they were still, it was still Eastern Bloc. It was still, the Stasi and all that stuff was still going on. So it was quite a shock. That would be the first thing my teenage self would want to know is, hey, you're still alive.
You're still alive, right?
Good on you.
Yeah, right.
I think the second thing my teenage self would probably want to know is, am I a millionaire yet?
Facts. Facts. I think everyone's teenage self wants to know that.
No, I can attest to the fact that that's not true.
Wow, really?
Not because of me, but because I had a conversation with somebody who, I don't know how young she was, but she was fairly young, online, in which she absolutely could not believe how many people are trying to use the law of attraction to get money into their lives. And the reason that she didn't believe it is she thought it was universal that everyone understood that you cannot be happy by having more money.
Right.
And when I pointed out to her that, no, there are actually a lot of people who believe that if they have more money, they feel more abundant and therefore they're going to feel happier, she kind of bought into it, but you could almost, obviously you can't see her, it's posting online.
Yeah.
But you could almost see the eyes getting wide, like, oh my God, how crazy is this world that I'm living in?
Right.
So
That's funny.
not everybody has that kind of motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the piece of advice I would give myself at that age is don't afraid to be you. Because at the time, I was still living very much in my twin brother's shadow, to the point where people barely even knew I existed. They knew I existed, but but I existed as a pair.
You were a package deal.
I was a package deal. And then the next piece of advice would be to take care, be aware of the company you keep, because they are. It's usually a reflection on how you feel about yourself. Because again, at the time, I was hanging out with some people that today I wouldn't hang out with, because it was I was going through that teenage struggling to fit in type of thing, and I had some interesting adventures, but at the same time, what I didn't realize is how other people, especially my family, were very concerned about me because of the company I was keeping.
Wow.
And, there was no intervention or anything like that, but I see now that how that influenced me, and not necessarily for the better. I don't want to get into too specifics, but that would be the two pieces of advice I would give my teenage self.
If my teenage self asks me for advice, I'm going to start off with that. And I'm giving advice to my teenage self. I think the thing I'm going to recommend more than anything else is, instead of going for the money, go for the passion.
Right. Right.
And there's actually a current story that goes with that. Louise and I were, I think it was part of the visit to the Cape, actually. I think it was the day after we visited with you, Alyx. We were in Chatham, I believe, in the shopping district there, and went into the shop, and Louise was shopping for stuff and so forth. And toward the end of the visit, Louise checked out her stuff, and there was a young girl who was getting ready to go to school who was checking us out, and she said she was going to attend Fairfield University here in Connecticut. So I said, oh, great. What are you going to major in at Fairfield? She said, oh, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. So I said to her, well, my recommendation is go for your passion. Don't go for the money.
Yes.
And her first response, the very first words out of her mouth were, boy, you don't hear that these days.
You sure don't.
You don't hear that. Everybody's going after the money. So apparently the advice holds true even to today. But yeah, that's what I would tell myself. Right. Because what that means is, in order to go after your passion, and my teenage self would have been saying to me, but I don't know what my passion is. And my response would have been, then just start trying things.
Yeah.
Try as many things as you can possibly try. Try one after another. Try them quickly. Don't spend a lot of time on them. Just keep going until you find something that just really grabs your attention, and go with it for a bit and see if that's really becoming a passion for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. And what a lot of people don't realize too is that when you follow your passion, the money usually follows.
Oh yes,
that was something I was raised on. So it was always implied. Like whenever I came up with a bright idea, like when I told my parents, "Oh, I'm gonna quit my job and become a stand-up comedian," my mother was like, "Cool. What else?"
Cool, mom.
Cool, yeah. As long as we were allowed to do whatever we wanted, as long as we had a backup plan if it didn't follow through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I've got I have a client right now, actually 19 years old, and trying to. He's a freshman at UVM, and trying to figure out what am I going to do. He's now into his second semester, and he's a biology major, and he's like, I really don't know what I'm going to do. I love biology, but I have no idea. I'm not into pre-med. I don't want to go pre-med. I don't want to, become a doctor. Well, what do I do with this? And so,
what about a lab assistant?
Well, again, we're going to figure out what his passion is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's part of the therapy that we're going to go through is figuring out what his passion is, and then once we figure out what his passion is, then we can clear the blocks to that passion.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this is a great example of why it's important to try little things. Try one thing after another.
Right.
Because even though he certainly has head start. He has identified he likes biology. Okay, good.
Right.
So you got something you like. But now we live in the age of specialization. So let's start looking at the different specializations and see if any of those float your boat instead of just doctor.
Right.
Or lab assistant. Because there are like dozens, there are hundreds of specializations now that many of which could fall under doctor, many of which could fall under lab assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have a pair of identical twin nephews.
Runs in the family, I can tell.
Actually, the sons of my identical twin. So that was actually skipped a generation, but it didn't this time.
Mm-hmm.
And and one of them is just now starting an apprenticeship as an electrician because he discovered that he has a passion for electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Or electronic contracting, wiring a house, that kind of thing. He has a passion for that. But his brother has absolutely no idea what he wants to do with his life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's really artistic and he likes to cook. And so he's going to the local community college this semester just to try, just to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way to do it.
And doing it at a community college, you spend a heck of a lot less money than going to a four-year college.
Facts.
No kidding. Yeah.
And you get to live at home and whatever, that way you can still, you don't have to completely leave the nest. You can still figure stuff out.
Plus, there's another advantage to a community college, unlike what we'll call perhaps a higher grade college.
Yeah,
Typically, if you go to that higher grade college, you'll find maybe one or two courses that are sort of general interest about whatever your topic is. Right. Whereas at a community college, you'll find dozens. So you can literally start trying things one after another at a community college in a way you really can't do it at a four-year university.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
a four-year university wants to track you almost, from the get-go. They want
from day one.
Yeah.
It's true.
They want to lock you in.
Right.
I would also.
We count on you in 4 years.
And I changed my major. I think everybody changes their major once they go into college too. I started out as a theater major and ended up doing history.
I don't even know anyone who's using their degree that they got in college now. Like,
I'm certainly not.
Well, I use my degree, just not during a living.
Right.
Yeah.
It depends on what you call use. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
I use my degree every day. Yes.
I use my degree every time I wash my hair. So.
Oh, that's funny. But it's true. It's very true. And that kind of leads to the second thing I'd recommend to my younger self, if my younger self was still interested in listening after hearing the first thing that I recommended. But if he's still interested in learning more, then the second thing I'm going to recommend is don't go to college. Or put it more precisely, don't go to college unless you have a really, really good reason to pursue your passion in college.
Mm-hmm. Go to the parties, but don't go to college.
I mean, I won't even go there. In part because I did.
So that's the route I went. I went to the parties, but I didn't go to college. I was like,
Well,
nah.
At the very least, you'll save a lot of money.
I definitely did.
I mean, because, when I went to school, people are going to faint when they hear this. My entire college loan when I was done with school was $7,000.
Are you serious?
Which was astronomical compared to what my father went through.
Are you? I paid more than that for hair school. Are you serious right now?
I am dead serious. I am dead serious.
I went to
$7,500
hair school for 9 months, and I paid $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the.
Now, part of that is monetary expansion and devaluing the purchasing power of the dollar. That's where part of that is. But part of it is just the incredible inflation that's going on with college education costs.
Right. Well, college education inflation, I think they said was triple standard inflation, and that's the.
Yeah.
And that was the
say that 10 times fast.
That's triple the shadow.
You didn't say it the first time.
What was that college? What college
inflation? College inflation. College tuition inflation.
Yeah.
Over the last 30 years or so has outpaced inflation by about 10 times. It's
enormous.
And it's all due to the availability of student loans.
Yep. Exactly it. Yeah. Student loans started coming around late 60s, early 70s. Yeah. Up until that point, my dad went to a small but very good college called Union College in Schenectady, New York. And that college today, I don't know exactly what their tuition is. I'm going to guess it's in the range of $15,000 to $20,000. When he went to school, it was $500.
Right.
Oh.
That shows you just how much inflation is going on.
I'm going to pass out.
And and this is another reason why my nephew decided not to go to college and instead went to become an apprentice electrician instead. Because he looked at the high cost of college and was like, "What is a college degree going to do for me in that career?" And the answer is not a heck of a lot. In fact, probably next to nothing.
Yes.
I'll be making a heck of a lot more money in a shorter period of time going this route. And the classes that I need in order to get my certification as an electrician, if I am an official apprentice, they pay for it.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer. If you have a passion for the building trades and you can get into a union or an apprenticeship program, you won't have a student loan burden after you're all done. Especially right now, there's an extremely high demand for that particular career.
Yeah.
Now, when I was younger, again, going back in time, that didn't exist. It was all about go to college. If you didn't go to college, you were a loser.
That's it.
Yep.
And so, it was just a foregone conclusion. You go to college and you amass a massive student loan burden. My wife and I together, we both have master's degrees, and our student loan burden is a house, a nice house, not just a house, a nice house.
See, my generation, it was. You could go to college if you wanted to. You could not go to college. You could do your own thing. And I have zero debt. Just saying.
That's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a
lot of my people in my class went the military route just because of the student loan debt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. They were like, let's get that GI Bill kicking.
Yeah, right.
The irony, though, with the GI Bill is it doesn't cover a whole thing.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it does cover a lot, especially if you're a veteran. Yeah.
You just have to get through that. You just have to get through the first part.
Yeah. And hopefully not get called to war. That part.
So why don't we fast forward it a little bit to if we went back in time and talked to ourselves in our mid to late 20s or early 30s.
Okay, so that's where I am now.
Okay.
My message actually doesn't change, believe it or not.
Okay.
My message remains the same. The part about college perhaps goes away, although I could actually replace that with graduate school and have the same meaning. But
right.
Really, my message remains the same. Go with your passion.
Yeah.
I think that is so universal. It applies to every area of our lives from zero to death.
Right.
I don't think there's ever a time when it's not the most important thing, following the passion.
Yeah. Well, my first piece of advice to myself in my mid-20s, early 30s would be stop trying to live up to what other people expect of you or what you think
that's good.
people expect.
That's why I said don't try to fit in anyone else's box.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's especially true for somebody who's in their late 20s, early 30s, because you're at that age when you are trying to fit into what society expects of you because, okay, all right, I have to adult now. And what does that mean? That means I have to own a house. I need to have the car. I need to have the job and all that stuff. So I need to be responsible, have responsibilities. And that means giving up on your passion a lot of times. Because now you have to go after the money, because if you're not going after the money, you're not being a good citizen. You're not supporting your family the way you should be supporting your family and all that stuff. And again, it's living up to that expectation. So that's exactly the advice I would give my past self from my late 20s, early 30s, because my son wasn't born until I was 37, 38 years old. So
how old are you, sir? What is happening?
He's 39. He's celebrating anniversaries of his
That's
39th
a lie.
birthday. No, you didn't hear the rest of it. That's all. He's just celebrating anniversaries of his 39th birthday.
I'll be turning 49 in October.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
By the way, I like something you said, Bill.
Thank you for thinking that I was younger.
It's when you don't have your glasses on. I'm like, what? I'm very confused with age these days. Nobody looks the way they should.
I put the glasses on, I look a lot older, especially when I'm looking at
very
people that go like this.
future-ish. Yeah.
You just touched on something, though, Alex. You touched on something very important. The perceptions about what constitute age no longer apply.
Yes.
They're
agreed.
shifting. They're shifting dramatically. And I think that is directly attributable, at least within our law of attraction circles, to people being more attuned with who they are. They may not even understand why they're doing it. They may not know anything about law of attraction.
Yeah. Right.
But they're more in tune with who they are. And by being that, they are living a happier life. And by living a happier life, they're staying younger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just A leads to B leads to C. By the way, Bill, I also like something else that you said. I wanted to kind of piggyback on it.
Okay.
And that is, I'll say it a little bit differently from the way you said it. To my early 20s person or mid 20s or 20 something person, I would say you are enough. You haven't been hearing this, but you are enough. Right? And you can ignore all of the stuff that you've been told about how you're not good enough or you're not acceptable enough or you're not attractive enough. No, you're enough. In fact, you're more than enough. And the only thing that's lacking is your belief that you're enough. So
I've been told I'm a lot. So I got the opposite. Like, not only are you enough, you're a lot.
I love it. That's funny.
You can take that one or two ways. Just don't take that the bad way.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I don't. I'm a delight. I know I am. It's fine. I would tell my late 20s self, you are not a burden.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was height of my suicide years. And that was the one main theme is I'd be better off. People would be better off if I wasn't here. It would be easier for everyone else if I wasn't here. And I think if someone just told me, you're not a burden on us, it would probably stopped it right there.
You needed your own version of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, I did. I did. In color, please.
In color.
It's better in black and white, man.
No, man. It still isn't. And there's the generational gap right there.
Alex, I'm going to shock you by saying I think it's better in color.
Yay! And that's another thing I would tell myself is you're always right.
You're always right.
I didn't learn that until the last 2 years. Like, think about it. If you think about your past, Alex, you have always been right.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, this is where I like the Abraham thing. You can't get it wrong. There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
No matter how much somebody else might say what you're taking is a misstep, no matter how much you might say that what you're taking is a misstep, you're still right. You're following the path that you need to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're not getting it wrong. You're getting it right. You're just doing it in a different way.
Exactly. That's why you don't subscribe to what society says, because everyone is different and everyone is taking a different path. So you can't base yourself on like Instagram life goals. Like it's too much stress and too much pressure.
Now, one thing that my younger self would have told me, and I still believe it to be true, is society's crazy.
Facts.
I mean, because I've believed that all of my life. And, if I had asked my 10-year-old self, my 10-year-old self would have told me society is crazy.
It's hard out here for a pimp. Yep. That's what my 16-year-old self would have asked me. It was like, is it still hard out here for a pimp? Girl, you don't even know. These streets, man. These streets. She probably would have asked me, are we married yet? I'm like, and then I would have told her, don't be in a rush because adulting sucks. So as soon as you get married is when you have to start paying taxes. So don't be in a rush.
Wait a minute, there's a flaw in that theory.
There is a flaw in that theory.
In our path.
Okay.
When I'm doing tax season, I usually have a lot of couples that come see me who are not married, and so I'm doing separate returns for them, and I'm like, you can save a lot of money
by getting married. It's true.
Consolidate the debt.
That's right. Well, actually, to consolidate the obligation.
They've been living together for a while. They've already got like one or two kids together, and it's like, you can make this a lot easier on yourselves.
Yeah, at this point, what are you waiting for?
Like, put it this way: if you were married, you'd have the down payment for the house. Right. Yeah, that's a bit of an eye opener, that's for sure. Okay, well, Alex. We're up to the 30s at this point. You're in your 30s. So I'm going to kind of reverse the question for you. What do you want your 50-year-old person to come and ask you? Or give you advice on, I should say.
That's an interesting question. My 50-year-old self.
Yeah. Because this kind of ties into thinking about what it is that we really like and want. Instead of, we've illustrated a number of different ways in this conversation, and you can just find it out in society all the time. We've illustrated a number of different ways that people will focus on what it is they don't like and don't want. And even in the way we communicate to ourselves, we were talking about it. We often are saying, don't do this, don't do that. We're focusing on what we don't like and don't want, But now you get the opportunity to figure out what it is that you like and you want, that you want advice on.
I would want to know, did I become the next Shonda Rhimes?
Ah.
And I'm actually reading her book or listening to it because I'm lazy. And she was saying that she wanted to be the next Toni Morrison, but then she realized one day she can't do that. You can't be busy trying to be someone else because that person already exists. So you have to be the next you. So am I the next me is my question.
That's a good question. What do you think the answer is?
Yes, because I'm always the next me.
That's good.
It's just where are we at this point?
Can you think of anything to ask your future self that you don't know the answer to yet?
Same thing my 16-year-old self said. Are we married yet?
Are we married yet? Well, we know what the priority is in Alex's life.
How is my family? That's something I'd want to know.
Yeah. Okay. And Bill, you're almost at the point of being that 50-year-old self.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why that's so funny to me.
we'll kind of blur the boundaries and say, okay, so you're the 50-year-old self. What are you going to say to your 35-year-old self?
50. What I say to my 35-year-old self is, geez. I would say,
this conversation isn't going well.
I would say, try to stop taking things so personally.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I would say. That's something I would say now to my 35-year-old self.
I would say that to your 40-year-old self now.
I would say,
don't take that personally.
I would say work on yourself. Make yourself your highest priority. I would also say stop trying to fix everybody. Start with yourself and just go with yourself, and then whatever advice you can give to somebody after that, you can speak from a position of experience rather than something you read in a book someplace. I would also say to my 35-year-old self, don't worry, you will be a father soon. Because at that point in my life, I had resigned myself to that I will never have any kids. That even though we'd been married for a while, we'd gotten to the point where we enjoyed our freedom. And we were getting into our mid to upper 30s, and we were like, okay, clock's ticking.
Right.
Why don't and so we talked about it a lot. Are we going to let this clock run out? And and then we tried once, and we got pregnant, and then it ended in a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah.
So again, we were like, okay, well maybe there is no clock here. Maybe the clock's already run out.
Yeah.
And so we didn't try again for another year. And all during that year, we were like, do we want to put ourselves through this again? And so, again, I would say the advice I would give that person would be, work on yourself. Don't try to fix everybody, and don't worry. Whatever happens will happen for divine purpose. Everything is divine purpose.
Well, as I'm looking back on my own 35-year-old self, I'm realizing, well, first of all, the butterfly effect. I've been thinking about that one. And I think the butterfly effect is great. I'm not worried about the butterfly effect at all. In fact, I'm counting on it. Because
did you see the movie?
I don't need to see the movie.
You might want to see the movie.
There's lots of scare stuff out there. I mean, scare movies have been around for years. My thought is, I want my past self to be developing. I want myself to be developing in ways that affect me to today. Yeah. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And the message I want to give to my 35-year-old self is look at the advice I gave to you when you were 15. Look how it worked out. You've been following your passion. How's that worked? Well, it's working great. Good. See? Keep going. You're on the right path here. See, like I told you when you were in your 20s, you are enough. You really are, right? How cool is that? In other words, I want to continue to encourage the behavior that I had encouraged early on, and that my younger self said, yeah, I'm going to go with that. Now, if my younger self was fighting me all the way, then my first piece of advice would be a question like, you really want advice from me? Because you didn't follow the advice the first time. So do you really want to hear from me? Yeah. Now, maybe by that point I've experienced enough pain, like, okay, I'm willing to try,
Yeah.
So that's always possible too. But once again, I do think it falls into the first question, which is, do you want the advice?
Yeah. There's a shamanic practice called tracking. And and this particular practice is when you go into journey, you actually contact your older self. And that older self is doing exactly what we're talking about right now, where you get to talk to your older self, and your older self can give you, if not advice, assurances.
Okay.
Because they usually don't your older self doesn't usually give you specifics because again, the whole butterfly effect thing.
That's all I'm
they're
saying.
in a place, but if you're tracking and you find that they're in a place where you don't want to be, then you can change it.
Right.
Then you can like, oh, wait a second, that older version of myself is actually not in a better place. Maybe I want to change some of that. But if they're in a better place, the advice is usually, no, you got this. No, you got this. No, you don't need to doubt yourself. You got this.
Yeah.
So, Alex, I got to ask you, what is it about this movie, The Butterfly Effect, that you really that makes you scared of the whole thing? What said, oh God, I got to stay away from this? What is it about that really you really don't?
Basically, it was like they would go back into the past and try to avoid the current future that they were in, and everything they did to try to avoid it created another timeline where things got worse. And then every time they went back to fix that got worse. And then, so it's like, yeah.
Well, but to me, there's an LOA message in there, and that's why I brought it up.
Right.
Because the LOA message is you keep focusing on what it is you don't want.
Right.
Yeah.
How can you ever possibly produce a result that you're going to like out of that?
Right. And actually, the whole TV series, The 12 Monkeys, was that way.
I never watched it.
You've never watched 12 Monkeys? Oh my goodness!
Nah, wasn't
that
into
was the
it.
whole. That was, and also the Travelers. Same thing.
I hated the Travelers. I watched it, but I hated it.
Oh, love that show! Absolutely love that show.
It's canceled. FYI. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I think that spoiler's already out.
Yeah.
But that butterfly effect, I mean, I haven't watched it at all, so I don't really know the ins and outs of it. But I knew enough about it to know that it was a negative spiral.
Yeah.
And that to me there's a great lesson in there. And that is, it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with past and future or just dealing with the present. You go on a negative spiral, you're going to get a negative spiral.
Right.
You can't keep going on, I got to make this terrible life better and hope that you're going to make the life better by doing that.
Well, see, there's with the loopholes and things, it was like, okay, we did this, and now I have the perfect wife. However, I don't know, my son got hit by a car, so now I got to go back and try to fix this. But then if I do that, I'll never meet my wife, and it's things like that.
That is LOA right there.
I
mean, people tend to think about using the law of attraction as a deliberate creator as I want A, so I will only focus on A, and my results will be about A. But it's never that way.
No.
It's always about my vibration is high, low, or medium. If my vibration is high, I'm getting a lot of good stuff. If my vibration is medium, I'm getting a mixture of stuff. If my vibration is low, I'm getting a bunch of stuff I don't like.
Right.
And it's not about just an A to A correlation. So, of course, if you go back, even if you manage to finally find that perfect wife, if you go back with the idea of fixing this bad life you've got, you're still going to get negative consequences, even if you get part of it right.
Right.
So it was the focus that was wrong. It wasn't that they installed a perfect wife. It's that the focus was, I got to change this bad life I've got.
Right. And just to go back to 12 Monkeys for a moment, the whole idea of that one is they were in a future where most of the population got wiped out by this mega virus, and during the process of going back in time to try and fix it, they ended up causing the very virus.
The mega virus, yeah. I do remember that part.
Yeah, so perhaps maybe start with a movie that doesn't have the premise of we're going to eliminate a megavirus.
Right.
Back to the Future?
Yeah, that's really just not terribly helpful premise to work with.
Well, yeah, Back to the Future, there was no intention of changing the past.
Right.
Well, Biff had an intention of changing the past. But.
Right, Biff did.
No, Biff had an intention of changing the future.
Well, both, actually.
Yeah.
He wanted to change his young future. And he did.
Yeah.
And what he ended up with was, well, there's an interesting parallel, too. We're running out of time to do this show, but we could do a whole thing on that one. And people who get what they want and they like it, but nobody else does.
Well, that sounds like everybody else's problem, not mine. Can only please one person a day, and today happens to be my day.
That's a much healthier approach, I have to say.
Thank you.
So we'll leave it there. Just a reminder, if you're not yet a subscriber to This Insanity, please become one. Lots of ways to do it because we're on all the different platforms that you can find for podcasts. But the easy way, just go to our homepage, loatoday.net, follow the instructions, and like that you're a subscriber. Share the fact that you're subscribing. Alex, tell people quickly how to subscribe on YouTube.
Go to LOA Today podcast videos on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Next to the subscribe button, there is an always button, a little bell, and click that bell so you will always be notified when we are live.
And then just a little heads up, I won't be able to do next Tuesday's show because we're going to be traveling back from Virginia to my mom's memorial service that we're attending over the weekend.
Right.
So Tuesday morning, I mean, there's an outside chance I could be available to do it, but I can't guarantee it. So I'm saying let's just postpone it until next week.
Out.
Yeah, let's just go with it. So it'll be 2 weeks from now that I'll be talking to you guys, but it's going to be a long wait, but I'll be looking forward to it. So hope you guys have a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
You too.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. So anyway, thank you very much. Thanks to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.